Hare Krishna, Karunachaitan Prabhu. Thank you for your kind words.
Hare Krishna.
And it's a pleasure to be here in the midst of the devotees from Leicester and surrounding areas. So thank you very much for this morning. We'll start with the Kirtan, then move on to the 3 verses that you have given me. Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Loud and clear. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Amunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhi Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhi Jai Radha Sham Sundar Radha Sham Sundar Radhi Jai Radha Sham Sundar Radha Sham Sundar Radhi Jai Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Guru Deva Guru Deva Guru Deva Jai Guru Deva Nitai Gauri Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo जमशबाद परमहंस प्रभुपाद का आचार्य श्री श्रीमद कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति श्री भक्ति महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामचार श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय। श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय। इस्कॉन लेस्टर की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So reading and discussion from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, verses 17, 18, and 19. So we'll start with verse 17. Citat patram jagraha muktadam avibhushitam ratnidandam gurakeshah priyah pritamasyaha. Citat patram jagraha muktadam avibhushitam ratnidandam gurakeshah priyah pritamasyaha. Citat patram jagraha muktadam avibhushitam ratnidandam gurakeshah priyah pritamasyaha. So I'm just going to read the translation and purport. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. At that time, Arjuna, the great warrior and conqueror of sleep, who is the intimate friend of the most beloved Supreme Lord, took up an umbrella which had a handle of jewels and was embroidered with lace and pearls. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Gold, jewels, pearls, and valuable stones were used in the luxurious royal ceremonies. They are all nature's gifts and are produced by the hills, oceans, etc., by the order of the Lord. When man does not waste his valuable time in producing unwanted things in the name of necessities, by so-called development of industrial enterprises, they are now using pots of gutta-percha instead of metal like gold, silver, brass, copper. They are all using margarine instead of purified butter, margarine. And 1/4 of the city population has no shelter. So we'll take one verse at a time. And for now, we'll just focus on this verse, 17. So the context here is that the Lord is about to go to Dwarka. And everyone is anxious. The amazing thing is that everyone is anxious, including Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra is also anxious. Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, they are also anxious. Because Jeevere Swarupa hai Krishna Nityadas. By constitution, we are all servants of Krishna. Mame Vansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are all eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And Dhritarashtra was not an ordinary person. So he was also anxious. Krishna is going. So different people are doing different things. They are all running around here and there because Krishna is going. So Krishna is the life and soul of all living beings. What to say of devotees? Jivanam Sarvabhutanam. Krishna is the Jivan, life of all living beings. So just like you see a person who is about to die, how anxious that person feels, who is just about to die. So much anxiety and so much pain, suffering, bewilderment. So Krishna, being the life and soul of Pandavas, he is going. So because he is going, so everyone is feeling very anxious, bewildered, and extreme sense of pain, this sense of pain, as if their life is going. So when I read this, remember, I found that Dhritarashtra was anxious. So that surprised me. But later on, I thought that Dhritarashtra was not an ordinary person. After all, he is the son of Lord Vyasadeva, and he is also the uncle of Pandavas, the pure devotees, half-brother of Vidurji. Then through Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra is also connected to Krishna. He is also connected to Krishna through Draupadi and Pandu Maharaj. And Draupadi and Pandavas, and Kunti and Pandu Maharaj. So through Pandavas and also his own son Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra is connected to Krishna. Because Duryodhan's daughter Lakshmana was married to Krishna's son, Jambavati's son, Samba. So we can see that Dhritarashtra and all the Pandavas and the residents of Hastinapur, they are so anxious. But now the Lord has decided to go. First time when he decided to go, Kunti Devi offered her prayers, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj broke in tears. So he had to stop. But this time he is going. He is definitely going. So now we can see the situation in Hastinapur, that all Pandavas are engaged in some sort of service. So normally we see Krishna as Parthasarathi. Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna. But in those descriptions, we find that time to time, Krishna has been addressed as Achyuta. Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthape Me Achyuta. So although Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna, but he is still Achyuta. He maintains his position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what our Acharyas point out, that despite driving the chariot and taking an inferior position as Arjuna's chariot driver, Krishna is Achyuta. Therefore, he is still the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all. Bhoktaram Yagadabsham Sarvalok Maheshwaram. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyattamam Shantam Rachiti. So here we see for the first time after the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna's chariot was driven by the Lord, that Arjuna is doing some menial services to Krishna. So Krishna's associate Pandavas, they are Dwarka, Vasis, and Pandavas. They know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time, they have love and affection for him because he is also their family member, their dear friend, their well-wisher. So the mood of Dwarka Vasis or Pandavas, Hastinapur Vasis, is the love which is mixed with Aishwarya. There is awe and reverence. They know that great sages like Vyasadeva, Asit, Deval, Lord Parashuram, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, they all come to Pandava's house just to see the Lord. So such great sages, including Narad Muni, they would not often come. And 5,000 years ago, whenever Maharaj Yudhishthira did any sacrifice, the demigods used to come and personally take the offerings. So suppose they made offering to Indradev. At that time, Indra will personally come and take the offerings. Agni, personally come and take the offerings. So 5,000 years ago, the atmosphere was much more advanced spiritually. And demigods used to come to the earthly planet. Particularly, they used to come to the Pandavas or to Dwaraka, where Krishna was. So Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas had seen that Lord Vyasadeva comes so often and Narad Muni comes so often just to see the Lord. So they knew his divinity, his personality. Therefore, their love for the Lord was mixed with Aishwarya. So here we see Arjuna is holding an umbrella. And that umbrella has been described as bedecked with so many jewels. It had handle of jewels and was embroidered lace and pearls. In the purport, Prabhupada explains that 5,000 years ago, these valuable stones, jewels, minerals, they were used. And that was the opulence. Prabhupada said that they are all natural gifts which were given by hills and oceans, and they were used for household paraphernalia as well as for ornamentation, decorating their bodies. Now in Kali Yuga, the situation has degraded so much. Although people are very proud to say that we have advanced civilization because of these computers and machines and aeroplanes. But when you look at and compare, you find that things have really degraded so badly. You would hardly find a house where people are eating in golden pots or silver pots or even copper or aluminum. Mostly you'll find people are eating in the pots made of china, the china mud. So these pots are made of china, and if you do some research, you'll find that this china mud our pots are made of, this is made from the animal bones. So many devotees don't use these china pots. We rather use some steel, stainless steel, or other kinds of pots. So this is how the things have degraded so badly that people don't have any metallic pots to eat on. So they use either plastic or the china pots, which are made of bones, animal bones in some cases. So that's the degradation. Now, instead of ornamenting, decorating their bodies with gold, silver, people are decorating with artificial jewelry. You can go to the artificial jewelry shops, and you will find people are buying artificial jewelry because they cannot afford to buy real jewelry. Real jewelry is only bought for weddings. And nowadays, people are not buying real jewelry for weddings. You can hire them. The people are hiring the real gold or silver jewelry just for a night. And then they are given back. So this is how the situation has degraded in Kali Yuga. But what we find in Srimad Bhagavatam, that Maharaj Yudhishthira's kingdom was so opulent that even the umbrella was decorated with pearls, jewels, and nice silken clothes. The laces were of silken clothes, silk. That was the opulence. Now somebody may say, what happened to all that opulence? Why do we not see that opulence anymore? So this is because Mother Earth produces these jewels and pearls and all the opulence if she is happy. Just like you have a milking cow, the cow gives milk by seeing her calf. So normally the milkmen, the farmers, when they are about to milk the cows, they take the calf and allow the calf to drink cow's milk for about few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. They will allow the calf. So just by seeing the cow gives milk more and more. But in Kali Yuga, the situation is topsy-turvy. In Kali Yuga, people are using machines to milk the cows. So what is happening? That they use these machines, and machines are insensitive. Machines are machines. So they are insensitive. And the machines are used to milk the cows to the extent the cow starts bleeding. So the milk that comes from the farms, these modern farms, sometimes includes cow's blood, because the machines are used to that extent. The cow would start bleeding. So that's the difference between the life in Kali Yuga and the life some 5,000 years ago when Krishna was present and Pandavas were ruling the planet. Kunti Maharani explains why Pandava's kingdom was so opulent. She says, Ime Janapada Sruddha Supak Ausat Virudha. Oh, Vikshite. So she's saying, my dear Lord, our kingdom is so opulent. Ime Janpada Sruddha. All the districts and villages and towns are full of minerals, fruits, jewels. Rivers are giving the waters, pure water. And the trees are giving fruits, vegetables, herbs. The mountains are giving jewels, and oceans are giving minerals. But there's a reason why they are giving. Because you have mercifully looked at our kingdom. That's why they are giving. So Kunti Maharani explains this. That this is simply because of your merciful glance. So when Krishna glances upon us mercifully or in the kingdom, everything becomes opulent. But when we lose Krishna's mercy, then like the demoniac kingdom in the lower planetary system, they also have opulence. But that opulence is a forced opulence. So nowadays, we see that Mother Earth is being forced and is being exploited by the modern demons. Therefore, there is ecological imbalance. Our oceans are in turmoil. The fish in the ocean are dying. The ocean water is polluted. Millions of tons of plastic is being thrown in the ocean, which is killing the aquatics. Then there is constant drilling of oil from the ocean. About 12 years ago, British Petroleum, BP, one of the biggest petroleum company in the world, they were drilling in South America. And somehow that drilling went wrong. So there was a leak and billions of tons of oil, crude oil, came to the surface and killed so many fish and also harmed the human life. That is modern life, where like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, the modern scientists, the modern man, they are exploiting the resources of material nature without worshipping the Supreme Lord. In other words, they want the kingdom of Ram Rajya, without Ram. Maharaj Yudhishthira's kingdom is compared to Ram Rajya. In the kingdom of Lord Ramchandra, there was all kinds of opulence, because the Lord used to mercifully simply look at, glance over his kingdom on this earth, and earth would produce so many minerals and jewels, pure water, herbs, medicines, fruits, vegetables, simply by his glance. On the other hand, if the Lord becomes angry, just like Lord Ramchandra became angry over the ocean, and he simply glanced angrily, the ocean water came to a boiling point, and all the aquatic started burning. So that was the time when the ocean came out. Trahimam, Trahimam, Trahimam. My dear Lord, please save me, please save me, please save me. Lord Ramchandra was fasting for 3 days, begging the ocean to give him way to go to Lanka. And the ocean wasn't listening. So the Lord Ramchandra simply glanced over the ocean with angry eyes. So that is the potency of the Lord's glance. So Panwa was a very opulent here, because Kunti Maharani explains that when the Lord is coming from Dwarka or going away from Hastinapur, he is glancing over the kingdom of Pandavas. And because of his glance, then all the rivers, oceans, of mountains are producing these valuable jewels and medicines, flowers, foods, etc. So that is verse 17. Now we move to verse 18. Okay, so the verse 18 is on the screen. It will be on the screen. Okay, don't worry, bro. I've got verse 18. Unless you can get it. Okay, that's fine. So verse 18. Uddhava satykischaiva vyajane param adbhute vikriyamanaha kusumai reje madhupati pati. Uddhava and Satyaki began to fan the Lord with decorated fans, and the Lord, the master of Madhu, seated on scattered flowers, commanded them along the road. So now we see that alongside Arjuna and Pandavas, Krishna's Dwarka associates were also engaged in serving the Lord, particularly Uddhava and Satyaki. They are two confidential associates of the Lord in Dwarika. So Uddhav is Krishna's cousin brother, and constant associate. And Satyaki is the chariot driver of the Lord. So Satyaki was a student, a disciple of Arjuna. And his name comes in the Bhagavad Gita, first chapter. Satyakis Aparajita. The Satyaki was a Yodha, a warrior who was unconquerable. In the army of Duryodhana, this was considered that Satyaki is more fearsome warrior than Arjuna. But in his service to Krishna, Satyaki was driving Krishna's chariot. That was his service. So Satyaki, Krishna's chariot driver, and Uddhav, Krishna's cousin, who was constant associate of the Lord. Uddhav is considered as the topmost, one of the topmost devotees in Dwarika. Apart from the queens, Krishna considers Uddhava as his life and soul. There is a statement from Krishna, the Supreme Lord. He said, "My dear Uddhava, Lord Sankarshan, who is my second body, is not so dear to me. My consort Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, she is also not so dear to me. Lord Anantashesh, who is also my expansion and my closest associate, not so dear to me. Lord Shiva, Mahadev, topmost Vaishnava, he is also not so dear to me as you are." So Krishna considered Uddhava as one of his most dearmost associates. Uddhava, from the very childhood, was very attached to the Lord. So Uddhava used to play with Krishna dolls. Just like our devotee children, they are given Krishna dolls to play with. So Uddhava, from the very childhood, he had no interest in anything, in playing or childhood activities. His favorite play was to just simply worship Krishna doll. The deity of Krishna, bathe him, decorate him, put garlands on him, and worship him. That was his play from childhood. A very dear devotee of the Lord. Then Uddhava went to the heavenly planets to study from Brihaspati. So Uddhava is the disciple of Brihaspati. Just like in India, people are not satisfied, so then they go to the West, they go to America, or they come to the UK, or they go to New Zealand, Australia, France, and now they are going to Ukraine. So students are also going to Ukraine to study medicine. And this created a lot of problems for India. They had to get all those students to be flown back to India in a special plane, because now students are going to Ukraine. So Indians go everywhere to study. Why? Because they think they can get better education. When Russia was the superpower, they used to go to Russia. They still go to Russia. Some go to Germany, Italy, Germany, Europe. So every third Indian from a middle class family will go somewhere to study. That is very normal. Every third person from a middle class family. That's quite a lot. Too many Indians are going out to study. A majority of my students in the university are either Chinese or Indians. And now, majority are comprising of other South Asians, like Bangladeshis, Sri Lankan, and others. So this is tendency to go to other countries. Now, 5,000 years ago, people went to study from great sages like Lord Parashuram. That was the university. Lord Ram went to Vasishtha Muni Ashram. Krishna went to Sandipani Muni Ashram. So Uddhav went to the University of the Demigods, the topmost professor, Brihaspati. So he went to study from Brihaspati. Therefore, Uddhava's learning surpasses learning of the greatest scholars. Uddhava is so learned. So Uddhava, although Krishna's cousin, was honored by the Lord. Krishna would honor him by asking his opinions. My dear Uddhava, Jarasandha is attacking our kingdom. So you tell me, what should I do? So the Lord used to ask questions like this. And Uddhava would give his opinions. That was his service. But here we see Arjuna and Uddhava, both are serving the Lord. So Uddhava is fanning the Lord, decorated fans, and Satyaki is also doing the fan service, fanning the Lord, and the Lord is walking on the flowers, scattered flowers. So here we see that most confidential associates of the Lord, they may be put in a position of respect, like Uddhava was put. Krishna would not do anything unless he had asked Uddhava his opinions, because Uddhava was the most learned personality amongst the associates of the Lord in Dwarka. Similarly, Krishna would drive Arjuna's chariot. Now somebody may say, why was Krishna driving Arjuna's chariot? And why was Arjuna allowing Krishna to drive his chariot? As a devotee, he should not. How can he allow Krishna to drive his chariot all the time? Especially in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this was so because Krishna loved it. The Lord was very fond of driving Arjuna's chariot. And Arjuna knew it, that this gives Krishna pleasure. When he drives my chariot, it gives him pleasure. So in order to increase the pleasure of Krishna, then Arjuna would let him drive his chariot. But when the time came, the Lord was about to leave for Dwarka, Arjuna was holding an umbrella, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was driving Krishna's chariot out of affection. Just like we see when the children are young, the parents, they carry their school bags. So when you take your child to the school, father, mother, they carry the school bag. And the child is just going, and parents are carrying the school bag. Why do they do that? It's simply out of affection. So similarly, Krishna would drive Arjuna's chariot. It gave him so much pleasure that he was driving his friend's chariot, and Arjuna let him do that. Or Uddhava would give his learned opinions to the Lord, although knowing Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all learning. Mother Saraswati is his maidservant. Despite, he would give his opinion because Krishna was playing that part. But towards the end, when the Lord was about to leave the planet, Uddhava was one of the Dwarkavasis who were saved from the fight that took place in Prabhas Kshetra, where all the Dwarkavasis, they virtually, not virtually, they actually, in fact, they fought together and they killed each other. Krishna took part in that fight, and Lord Balaram also took part in that fight. And that way, entire dynasty, entire dynasty, Yadu dynasty, came to an end. So here we see that Satyaki and Uddhava both are serving the Lord by fanning him with decorated fans. Okay, now we move on to verse 19. Ashvantashishah satya tatra tatra dvjerita nanurupascha nirgunasya gunatmana. Translation. It was being heard here and there that the benedictions being paid to Krishna were neither befitting nor unfitting, because they were all for the Absolute, who was now playing the part of a human being. At places, there were sounds of Vedic benedictions aiming at the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Benedictions were fitting in the sense that the Lord was playing the part of a human being, as if a cousin of Maharaj existed. But they were also unfitting, because the Lord is absolute and has nothing to do with any kind of material relatives. He is nirguna, or there are no material qualities in him, but he is full of transcendental qualities. In the transcendental world, there is nothing contradictory. Whereas in the relative world, everything has its opposite. In the relative world, white is the opposite conception of black, but in the transcendental world, there is no distinction between white and black. Therefore, the sounds of benedictions uttered by the learned Brahmanas here and there appear to be contradictory in relation with the absolute person. But when they are applied to the absolute person, they lose all contradiction and become transcendental. One example may clear this idea. Lord Sri Krishna is sometimes described as a thief. He is very famous amongst his pure devotees as the Makhan Chor. He used to steal butter from the houses of neighbors at Vrindavan in his early age. Since then, he is famous as a thief. But in spite of his being famous as a thief, he is worshipped as a thief. Whereas in the mundane world, a thief is punished and is never praised. Since he is the absolute personality of Godhead, everything is applicable to him. And still, in spite of all contradictions, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. So now we see that this portion is describing the service of the Brahmanas. Service of the Brahmanas is to give benediction, give knowledge, and give benedictions. So Brahmanas were chanting Ved Richas, the mantras of the Vedas, in the form of blessings. Just like we chant Purush Shukta. When the Abhishek is going on or other ceremonies are going on, we chant Purush Shukta. So there are many auspicious prayers in the Vedas that bring auspiciousness. Like Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahi Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Viddushabahi Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. So all these prayers, they bring auspiciousness. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Let us always go together, be together. Okay, Sahana Bhunaktu, let us eat together. Sahaviryam Karvavahi, let us all do great work. Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Viddushabahi. Let us never be inimical to anyone. So these kind of prayers, they bring auspiciousness and they create very nice, positive. The Brahmanas in Vedic Yuga, Vedic age, they were trained to teach and also give benedictions to the people in general. So here we see that Brahmanas are also giving benedictions to the Lord. And they have come here to chant those auspicious mantras. Now when the Lord goes to Dwarka, the Brahmanas in Dwarka will also do the same thing. They will chant auspicious mantras and welcome the Lord with the hymns of the Vedas. We see in the example of Lord Ramachandra. So the philosophical point here is that Lord Krishna is absolute truth. Therefore, are these prayers fitting to him? Are these prayers fitting or unfitting? And Prabhupada explains in the purport that these prayers are also fitting and unfitting at the same time. Achintya Bheda Bhed. So Krishna is absolute, that simultaneously he is one and different from his energies. So simultaneously Krishna accepts those prayers, but so he makes them fitting because he accepts them as the service of his Brahmana devotees. But at the same time, these prayers are not fitting because they are giving benediction to the person who is the source of all benedictions. Just like earlier on you were hearing that by Krishna's glance, Mother Earth became opulent. The kingdom of Pandavas became opulent simply by Krishna's glance. So our devotees go in the morning, we do Mangalarti or we go for Sundararti. And one of the benedictions in the morning is that Krishna is glancing over you. The Krishna in the deity form is glancing over the devotees. And simply by that glance, all types of auspiciousness comes to the devotees. That's why the devotees go for Mangalarti or they go to the temple to see the Lord. Because when you see the Lord is also seeing you. There is a story of a sannyasi in Vrindavan. I think his name was Swami Shuddhanand. So he was blind. But every day he used to come to take darshan of Maki Vihari, one of the most famous temples in Vrindavan, Shri Maki Vihari. So one time, some local Brijavasi kids asked him, Maharaj, you are blind, you have no eyes, but we see that every day you come for darshan on time. Can you explain this? So Swami Shraddhanand said, yes, I have no eyes, true, But my Lord has got eyes. He is Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha. He has got thousands of eyes. I simply come so that he can see me, that I'm here. So when we go to the temple or go to Mangalarti, we have the opportunity that Krishna sees us. He knows we have come, we have offered our obeisances, offered our prayers. Krishna knows it and he becomes pleased. So Krishna's glance, Vikshate, it works miraculously and it brings all auspiciousness. So coming to the same point, that if Krishna's glance brings all auspiciousness, and Kunti Maharani is already established this. And why is it that the Brahmanas who know this fact are blessing the Lord? They are blessing the Lord who is the source of all blessings. Therefore, these blessings are not fitting. They are unfitting. In one hand, these blessings are fitting because the Brahmanas are doing their service by blessing the Lord. On the other hand, because the Lord is absolute truth, He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nobody can bless Him. Therefore, the blessings are not fitting. So that is what the purport is explaining here in this verse. Lord Ramchandra, he took the opportunity in his 14 years of exile to go to different sages and serve them and take their blessings. So the sages knew, all the great sages knew, including Vishwamitra, Vasishtha, and the sages in the forest, Sutikshna Muni or Agatsya Muni, they all knew that Lord Ramchandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his mercy, he has come here to our hermitage. Lord Ramchandra went to Chitrakoot, and then there he worshipped the sages. Then he went to Prayag, and he went to the hermitage or ashram of Bharadwaj Muni. Then he went to Nasik, and there he worshipped the sages. Then he went to South India while looking for Mother Sita, and there he worshipped Agastya Muni. So throughout his exile, 14 years, the Lord was going and taking blessings of these great sages. When Lord Ramchandra went to Anasuya Ashram, so there he told Mother Sita to get blessings from Anasuya, who is considered one of the most chaste lady. So Anasuya Ashram. And he also asked Mother Sita to take instructions from Anasuya. So here we see that Mahalakshmi, Sita who is Mahalakshmi, non-different from Mahalakshmi, she is going and begging for the blessing from Mother Anasuya, Sati Anasuya, and also asking her to instruct how to please her husband. So when the Lord is playing the part of the human beings, he plays that part of getting blessings from his parents, getting blessings from his spiritual masters like Vasishtha Muni, Vishwamitra Muni, and Krishna also plays the same part. Every morning he gets up and he takes blessings from his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, Then he goes to the temples of demigods and gets their blessings. So, when the Lord is playing the part of a human being, for him to accept the blessings is fitting. And for the Brahmanas to give him blessings is also fitting. But for the Supreme Personality, who is above all the auspiciousness and inauspiciousness, because he is absolute, all these blessings are unfitting. So that is the purport of this verse. Okay, I'm going to stop here and then leave some time for question answers or comments. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Can't see, Prabhuji, anything in the box.
Okay. No question, no comment. Okay, in that case, shall we stop here?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much for beautiful class. I once again request all the devotees to come forward if they've got any questions or comments to share. There's one comment in the chat box.
Okay, thank you, Sapna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
There seems to be no questions or comments, Prabhu. Thank you so much once again.
Okay, I hope everyone was here. Just not the list of names.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just want to say thank you for a lovely class, and I really like your comment about going to the temple so the Krishna sees us, and that's the main thing that we're trying to encourage youngsters these days. Because I get the question, why do we need to go to the temple when we can pray at home? And I always try my best to say, no, you have to go to the temple. And I want to give them an answer why they need to go to the temple. They say, oh, we got a temple at our house. We've got, Murti and everything of God at our house, of Radha Krishna. Why do we need to go to the temple? That's the questions from youngsters these days. So I'm going to try and say what you said to them. But is there anything else you can add that I can encourage, like my young, their sons are, in their 30s, they're married and everything, but still they say, no, Mom, we don't need to go to the temple. We're going to pray at home. So can you?
Okay, it's a very, very nice question, Mataji. Thank you. Okay, so normally this is a misconception in India and outside India. And this misconception has been spread by Mayavadis. Why do you want to go to the temple? The temple, the Lord is in the heart. The Lord is everywhere. So Prabhupada gives counter argument to this argument that Lord is everywhere. Sarvam Kalamadam Brahma. That Brahman is everywhere. Everything is Brahman. The Prabhupada gives counter argument that if everything is Brahman and Brahman is everywhere, then why don't you think that he will also be in the temple? The next question is, why should you go to the temple? When you can worship the deities at home, why should you go to the temple? We go to the temple or the place of pilgrimage to associate with devotees, because by the association of devotees, the devotional service becomes strong. In other words, bhakti, devotional service. The birthplace of bhakti is the association of devotees. So bhakti is born in the association of devotees. That is the birthplace of bhakti. So that is one of the reasons why we go to the temple, because bhakti becomes manifest in the association of devotees. Other reasons why one should go to the temple, that you find like-minded people who are worshipping the same deity, reading the same scriptures, they have similar goals in life. So when you are in the association of like-minded people, sajati, your devotional service becomes enhanced. That is one of the principles of devotional service, that we associate with like-minded people who have similar goals. Like our goals in ISKCON is to become Krishna conscious. Our goal is to study Prabhupada books. Our goal is to preach Krishna consciousness. Our goal is to spread this movement and spread the prophecy, spread the movement, spread the teachings of Mahaprabhu, so that his prophecy becomes more pronounced, more evident. Mahaprabhu said, Prithvi, te ache jato nagar adi gram, sarvatra prachar huive morna. That as many towns and villages are there on the surface of the globe, earth, my name, Krishna's name, Mahaprabhu is Krishna. Krishna's name will be spread. Now, we live in the UK, and if you calculate how many towns and villages are there in the UK, and how many ISKCON temples are there, and how much holy name is needed, because Mahaprabhu said every town and village. But in the UK, we only have a handful of temples and many congregational places of congregation where the preaching is going on. But Mahaprabhu is saying every town and village. So we still have so much work to do as preachers, as the devotees of ISKCON. We have so much work to do, some preaching. So we go to the temple because we find like-minded people who are practicing and dedicating their life for practicing and preaching this gospel, the teachings of Mahaprabhu, the teachings of Krishna. For the youngsters, it's important to go to the temple, because in the temple, they can be engaged in some service, and service is purifying. There's a story of Mahamana Madan Mohan Malviya, who is the founder of Kashi Hindu Vishwavidyalaya, or popularly known as the Banaras Hindu University. He was the founder. Very learned man, so learned that he was known as Mahamana, greatly learned human being, very learned man. So this Mahamana Madan Mohan Malviya, he came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once, and he said to the devotees that I want to see your spiritual master. This is a famous story because I have some questions. So the devotees went to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, said, Guru Maharaj, Madan Mohan Malviya ji has come and he wants to ask you some questions. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, take him to the kitchen and just ask him to wash some pots with ashes. Those days we didn't use the washing powder. They used to use the ashes from burning the cow dung. So for an hour or so, Madan Mohan Malviya was washing the pots with the ashes, cow dung ashes. And afterwards, when the pot were washed, then they asked him that, would you like to come and ask you a question to our Guru Maharaj? He said, no. My questions have been answered. So that is the magic. That is the wonderful thing of doing some service in the temple. Any service, some service. So when these youngsters go, they are not just going for playing in the temple. All the playing is important. They can play with their friends of same age. They can also be engaged in some service, any service, cleaning, washing, serving, or making garlands, any service. And that service is very, very powerful. I have seen here in Balaji Temple in Birmingham, which is one of the biggest Balaji temple, Tirupati Balaji Temple, that they have separate programs for youth, like we have Pandasena and other programs for children. That these youngsters who have been attending those programs, they have not only saved themselves from a lot of calamities, a lot of problems that youngsters go through in teenage years or before, but they have also become very focused. They developed good career and became devotees. So that is the advantage, that youngsters, those who are going to the temples, they're saving their life from a lot of problems that nowadays youngsters are going through. In India, one of the pandemic, one of the problems, most difficult problems youth are facing are the drugs. The drugs and various kind of addictions, particularly drugs. So youth is going through a huge pandemic problem in India, drugs, and all the other vices that are coming from the West. So the youngsters living in the West, living in the UK and other parts of the West, they can save themselves from so many problems simply by going to the temple with a humble service mood. They can go there, play with their friends, make some new friends, but at the same time, they can build character and become devotee. One devotee child I know, I knew him when he was 9 years old in one of the UK temples. And then eventually he joined Pandasena. He's heading the Pandasena in that temple. So in terms of his career, he remained focused in his studies, and his father rang me last month. He said he is going to London School of Economics to study economics. He has got a place there. So our children, they become very bright, they are bright, but when they come to the temple, do service, their intelligence becomes more refined. They do focus on their career, become people of character, and they become devotees. So we encourage all the youngsters to go to the temples. Okay, I think I spoke for quite a while. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, thank you so much. I love the point about service. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna. I think we just have a couple of minutes. Bhaktiman Prabhu, you have your hand raised. Hare Krishna. You're muted, Prabhu. I can't hear anything.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful class and wonderful points that you've been put forward. It's really, really inspiring and interesting. With the, the first verse which it was talking, you mentioned about the opulence of the kings at the time. We hear about that quite elaborately in Srila Prabhupada's in the books that we read. At that time, there's so much understanding of what real opulence means. Now, there's one thing that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj said about. He said, "There's nothing lacking in this world, but there is one thing that is lacking, and that is Krishna consciousness." And so he said, "So I'll bring a brick from Vaikuntha and bring it into this world." And that's exactly what he did. He brought Krishna consciousness. He injected this into this world so nicely. And when we think about this idea that we have opulence and the pursuance of material things, the pursuance of an opulent life, all these things. When you compare that to the spiritual world has kalpa-vrikshas, the desire trees. So there's nothing lacking in the spiritual world, but in the material world, everything is relative and limited. So there's this grasping for resource individually, and then maybe as nations trying to grab different nations' resources and things. So even as we grow up, like in Krishna consciousness, can you just explain how we can live peacefully without this greedy, grabby attitude towards life and thinking that just the accumulation of resource will bring us satisfaction? Can you just elaborate on that, please?
Okay, first of all, thank you for your comment. So beautiful comments. And then come back to your question. What is devotee's attitude towards opulence? The devotees see everything in relationship with Krishna. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhanjitha ma gridha kasya suddhanam. That is devotee's attitude. Tena taktena bhanjitha. We take as much as is required as our quota. And we don't take more than what is required. Otherwise, we become thieves. So, we become thieves from Krishna's creation because everything is Krishna's property. No one can claim that anything belongs to them. Although, mistakenly, so many nations are fighting. At the moment, Russia and Ukraine are fighting. And different parts of the world nations are fighting. But from a spiritual point of view, none of these nations actually own anything. Everything is Krishna's creation. This material world, earthly planet, and all the other planets, they are the creations of the Lord. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. The devotee's attitude is what the Ishopanishad verse is saying. Tena taktena bhanjitha ma gridha kasya siddhanam. We will become thieves if we take more than what is necessary for our maintenance. But it so happens that due to some piety, some pious activities, one devotee may have more opulence than another devotee. But our real opulence is the devotional service, is that love for Krishna that we can develop. That is the real opulence. Just like the devotees of the Lord, they are known as Akinchana. Maharani Kunti is praying to Krishna in the first canto. You have read those prayers. Okay. Namo akinchan vittai, nirgunat gunavrittai, atmaramaya, shantai, kaivalyapataye namah. So Krishna is akinchan vittai. He is the opulence of those who have no opulence. So akinchan means one who has nothing. Akinchan. Prabhupada had one god brother, famous, very famous god brother, Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Because he had nothing, only his bead bag, and one diary. But he was the most opulent person because throughout day and night he was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Even Babaji Maharaj, when he used to talk to others, just like we have conversation, so he would say what he had to say. And then again, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So in between conversations, he would chant. That was his opulence. So although he is akinchan, but he is the most opulent person. Why? Because Krishna has become his opulence. So akinchan vittai. Krishna is the opulence of those who have no opulence. But in order to achieve that status, we'll have to purify ourselves, become dedicated, committed to Guru and Krishna. And maybe one day we can become akinchan. And when we become akinchan, then Krishna will become our opulence. Vitta means opulence. So Krishna is known as akinchan vittai, the opulence of those who have no opulence. So that is devotee's attitude. We don't take more than necessary, but sometimes out of some previous piety, a devotee may achieve some opulence. So they use that opulence for Krishna's service. And by using that opulence for Krishna's service, they become more and more purified. And ultimately, they go back to Godhead, where we have Chintamani Prakar Sadmasi Kalpa Vriksha, Lakshavritesa Surabhira Vipalayantam, Lakshmi Shahastra Satsamnam Sevyamanam, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Vajan. Okay, does that answer your question?
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Wonderful.
Hare Krishna. So now I think it's 9:05. So we'll stop here. Now I want to thank Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu for organizing these discourses and giving us the opportunity to speak, and all the devotees for your attention. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
His Grace Raghupati Prabhu ki jai. Thank you once again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a beautiful class.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the lovely class.
Thank you.